Welcome to the Cruise TV Canada, the show where we focus on the stories and people behind some of the most amazing rides on the road. I'm your host, Stephanie Lastoria, and I'll be with you as we highlight the Euro Klassik car show and community. Euro Klassik, which started as a small local car show, has grown into one of the largest all-European car shows in Southern Ontario. Euro Klassik aims to unite car enthusiasts, both new and old, by sharing a passion for European cars. On the episode, we're going to be looking at a 1992 Volkswagen Mark II Jetta GTX, a 1991 Mercedes-Benz 300 CE, and a 1972 Volkswagen Super Beetle Custom. Stay tuned, guys.
This is a 92 Volkswagen Jetta GTX. I purchased the car in 2001, so I've owned it now for 23 years. It's an interesting story. The reason why I chose this vehicle is everyone was buying GTIs. I did my history on Volkswagen. I've been an avid Volkswagen enthusiast for years, and the GTX was an extremely hard to come by vehicle, and this was one of three that were imported into Canada at the time. I've actually kept the exterior of the vehicle pretty OEM. Underneath the shell, I've done a 180 motor swap. It has full air ride suspension. I ended up upgrading the dash to a newer style dash and fitting the dash into it. The car was painted in 2005. First car, believe it or not, was a Volkswagen Scirocco. That's kind of where I grew my passion for the VW brand. So the reason why I chose the Scirocco is because it's a very unique, kind of iconic vehicle. I like vehicles that aren't typically found on the road. I don't like to buy vehicles that you see every day. The Scirocco was kind of, what do they call it? The ugly duckling in VW. It was an S2. The S1 started off in, I believe it was 74. My first vehicle was a 1981 Volkswagen Scirocco with still the single wiper. It was something very unique, and everyone kept questioning, what is that vehicle? What is that vehicle? No one knew or understood what it was. A lot of people back when I was purchasing this vehicle would purchase GTIs. I love the GTI, but the GTX was such a sought-after vehicle, very rare production. It was only sold in the Canadian economy. It was never sold in the US. It was kind of interesting, whoever was leading Volkswagen Canada back then. They definitely brought in some interesting, unique vehicles. When I purchased this vehicle, it was originally a 2-liter 16-valve. I used to take it to many track days at Mossport and Cayuga. My passion for the vehicle kept growing, and I wanted to keep doing more things with it. In 2003, I decided it was time to do a motor conversion, a motor swap. So in 2003, I put in a 1.8 turbo out of a GTI. From there, I continued tracking the vehicle at Mossport, and I soon found out that the transmission that was originally equipped with this car couldn't withstand the extra added torque. So I went back to the chopping block and decided to install an O2J gearbox with a Pelican diff. That gave me better traction, performed much better on the track instead of having an open wheel diff. From there, after painting the vehicle, I decided to equip it with some nicer rims, like a BBS style, RS style wheel. Put on the Bilstein suspension for better track handling. Shortly after that, I decided tracking wasn't appropriate for this vehicle considering the age and how rare the car was becoming. So from there, it turned into a show vehicle, which I took it to many different car shows and took first place at many different events across North America. One of my favorite events attending to back in the day was Waterfest in New Jersey. Back in the day, all of us used to get together and we'd cruise about 12 hours down to Waterfest, New Jersey for the entire weekend. The show was iconic. It was one of the biggest shows out there, which gave me ideas. I never thought in a million years I'd ever run my own car show event. But later on down the road, when I moved out of the Toronto region and came to the Tri-Cities, fantastic car community, a lot of German heritage in Kitchener. I sat down with some close friends of mine and we said, why don't we put together a small little car show? When we started thinking about the car show back in 2010, we were trying to think of names. And I said, why don't we call it after the history of Kitchener? Most people don't know the reason why we called it Berlin Klassik. So Berlin Klassik was named after Kitchener. Before the World War, Kitchener used to be called Berlin. And I said, let's reflect on the heritage of Kitchener. So that's in essence why we called it the Berlin Klassik. We never thought we'd run the show for this many years. The first few years were all charity driven. First year we had 285 cars, which was astonishing for a first year show. Second year we went to 418 cars, double the space. The car community was absolutely amazing. Like, I've always had a passion for the German brands. And the car community really pulled through. To this day, you know what, I wouldn't be able to run this car show without the enthusiasm and passion for all of our enthusiasts that come out to the event. We've gone through a few hurdles. We started the show at Bingaman's. From there, we went to Guelph Lake for 3 years. Guelph Lake was a breathtaking experience. Who can say that they get a chance to run a car show on an island? So we branded the car show as the Berlin Klassik Island Tour. First year was a challenge getting vehicles onto the island. By third year, we mastered it. We figured out the dynamics. We brought in interesting trailer or tractor rides for enthusiasts. The island was always filled by about noon hour, and it created really what Berlin Klassik is today. But we were short-lived at Guelph Lake. After 3 years, we outgrew the facility. We then took it to Grand Bend. We thought, what great way to put on a car show is having it at a beach area and also have motorsports activities as well. So we expanded the show into drag racing, road course. One of the key highlights is our drifting expose. We have on-site camping. And it's really turned into a great weekend, or even a fantastic week where people bring out families for that entire week to enjoy the show and the beach atmosphere. This year, 2024, absolutely went down in history as our best event to date. Everyone was respectful, everyone was kind. The show could not have ran any better. The weather was absolutely beautiful, not a raindrop in sight. Our drifting expose, 30 cars this year. These guys put on a truly amazing show for the crowd. Our supercar experiences on track, where you can rent a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, a Porsche 911 GT. It was amazing. It truly brings people out for an amazing, exhilarating weekend. I look forward to definitely seeing you back in 2025. If you have any things you'd like to see or added to the show, my staff or myself would love to hear your thoughts and ideas. Once again, we build this show around enthusiasts, and the show is truly about you guys. Thank you.
So this is a 1991 Mercedes-Benz 300 CE. I've actually owned this car since 2017. I bought it off an older gentleman in Burlington, Ontario. It gave me a lot of family history, the look of it, the feel, the heritage. It's just something that I deep down knew I wanted and needed. Oh, I don't even know where to start. We'll dive into the drive, but as you can see, Marlboro, full body kit, custom wheels, you name it, every nut and bolt. my first car. I actually still own it, which is a CLA 250 2016. It just didn't cut it out for me because it was too expensive to modify at the time. And since we still own it, I'm fortunate enough to pass it along to my siblings so they can enjoy it. What is going on, guys? Tony's Classics, Anthony Yakhni. We're here with the Cruise TV show in my 1991 Mercedes-Benz. This is the first time someone's driven my car in a long, long time, and it's kind of nerve-wracking, but it's kind of cool to be a passenger princess for once. So, let's get into this. How I got into cars. When I was a kid, I'd play with Hot Wheels. I had tons of them, cars, you name it. But like, I'm the oldest in my family, so my parents are not car people, they don't really care, but my dad has owned a really cool, there's like a 1980s like SL, and I like absolutely loved it, and I still have baby pictures with it. And essentially, over the years, as one of my first cars was a CLA 250, and then from there, I realized that I couldn't modify it to how I wanted it to be compared to what we are sitting in today. So it was funny because for a whole summer, I went back to Lebanon because that's where my parents are from, and I met with my cousins that are around my age, and the E30s, the Mercedes, the classic cars that they're drifting, they're just having so much fun with, and I wanted to bring a piece of that back with me to Canada. So as soon as I got back as a 17-year-old, I started my hunt that summer. I think it was like August of 2017. Looking for a 190E because that's the only car that I knew. I honestly didn't know anything about the motors, didn't know anything about the drivetrain or anything about cars, but I wanted a 190E to remind me of my family. And then from there, I started my hunt. I saw about 3 or 4 of them. I wasn't really that satisfied with how they looked and all the maintenance they needed, because if you know these cars, you really have to find the perfect one that you're going to daily drive. And that was my intention, was daily driving and building this beautiful art piece that we're in today. Essentially, so this was the last vehicle that was available that I was allowed to look at with my father, because I had a beautiful Mercedes already, and in people's eyes, I'm downgrading to an old classic, but in my eyes, I'm upgrading to something where I could have joy and some heart put into it. So essentially, this older gentleman actually on Auto Trader in my city, he posted this car, fully stock, black, two-tone, I don't even know how to explain it, but the car is just immaculate. When it came up in my driveway, because my parents were already pretty frustrated, they're like, no, we're not going to be getting you another Mercedes after looking at the 3rd or 4th one. I'm like, guys, this is it. And I called the guy, I'm like, you gotta come to mine right now, because I had no idea that they made 2-door coupes in Mercedes, because all 190Es are 4-door. So that's kind of where I'm getting at. So when this car came to my house, it was a 300 CE. In my mind, I have no idea what that is. Not a single clue. I barely even knew what the 300E was at that time. So all I could focus on was the 190, but as soon as this thing came on, the black paint, the 15-inch wheels, the black leather interior, the cassette player, I was like, I'm sold. This is it. And it only had 160,000 kilometers on it at the time. I am now at 230. I'm trying to hit a goal of 250,000 kilometers so I can get that badge from Mercedes-Benz Canada. Yes, they still do that. It's a nice girl badge. So after it came on my driveway, we made the deal there and then in that moment for this car, and my journey started getting into cars as being that car enthusiast, but I was really big on art and everything, so I joined up with a local car crew. They hooked me up, they taught me the way. We started getting wheels. I got my first pair of BBS RS reps. So at the time, I honestly didn't know between real, fake, or what was Chinese, what was American made. It was just, I wanted the gangster Mercedes look. And boy, I'll tell you, I achieved it. But it was a 18-inch wheel by 10. So it was massive. And if you know the BBS RS wheels, they are multi-spoke, massive 90s gangster wheels. But when I first got it, I drove all the way up to Bolton to pick these wheels up. And then from there, it was just like, again, I didn't know anything about cars, so I put the wheels on wrong. I didn't know what staggered meant or squared. So this guy, and he's an older gentleman too, he puts on the rears in the front and then the front in the rears. I drive 2 hours home. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Why are they not like properly turning or fitting? So then when I joined this car crew, I go over to their house and they help me out. We figured it out. And then I just fell in love with it. I started attending local car shows, local meets, going out, started making a little name for myself. I used to be known as Merc_300CE as what my car's title was. From there, I started appreciating more shows and how everything was going on, and I really enjoyed other people modifying them, and I wanted to figure out how can I be that next car and make it and win myself a Berlin Classic first place trophy. So I believe the year was, I have a sticker, 2018. So on my windshield, I have 6 stickers of every year that I've attended Berlin Classic, now / Euro Classic. And so that would have been about, so I bought it in 2017. Fast forward a year later, we've gone through a transmission because I thought the car would be fast, and as you can see, it's an automatic. So when I was younger, I would shift from D to 3. I'm really not impressed, and I'm embarrassed to say that, but it gave it some power on the highway. But after a month of doing that, I blew my trans. So from there, we went to some local shops. And again, I didn't know much about cars, which hurt me because I paid as much money to rebuild it as it would have cost to manual swap this bad boy. So from there, 2018 was the first year after a bunch of maintenance and wheels. I saw all the cars, I saw how everybody was doing. I attended my first ever Berlin Classic as a stock Mercedes, and I met Garrett, and he showed me the community. He showed me what it meant to be part of something bigger. And I've just been inspired by everyone that's ever attended that event. I do my best to reach out every year. And as you can see, I have another car that's similar to this, and it's a 1990 Audi Coupe Quattro. And my journey is just getting started, guys. So I hope that explains a little bit, because I'm just getting started. Cheers.
Hey, I'm Jason, and this is my 72 Super Beetle. I've owned the car for approximately 5 years, and it took 3 years to build the car. I picked this car because my dad spilled the beans and said I was quite possibly conceived in the back of his 72 Super Beetle. Pretty much everything you see has been modified minorly or extensively. My first car was a 1987 Chevy Sprint. First got into cars, I was probably 13. My uncle passed away and we inherited a 1972 Dodge Duster, and I was absolutely begging my parents to keep it, and they ended up selling the car, so I was a little bit heartbroken because that was his first car after he was out of World War II, and he owned it till the day he passed away. And from there, I started getting to the age of driving, and I found a little $600 daily driver and did some modifications to it, nothing crazy, but I guess that's both of those incidences are how I got into cars. I picked this car, me and my dad, we had a conversation one night, and he said that if without his 72 Super Beetle, it's got a good chance that I probably wouldn't be here. I looked at him a little weird, and he said, "I'm pretty sure you were conceived in the back of the Beetle." Without hesitation, I asked him, what color was it? being the typical gearhead guy that I am, I wanted to know. So he said it was a dark gray, and so I had my next personal car build picked out, and then my mom had a 98 or 99 convertible new Beetle, and it was almond and black. So I already had my color scheme picked out for the whole build. I just had to throw my flavor at it. It's full custom everything, I guess. Like I had a 2-liter fully built Porsche motor. Every piece of sheet metal's been stretched, skewed, pulled, moved, manipulated, slammed on, it's lowered on air ride. It's all Praz's air ride and custom airbags. The front struts are Mark II Jetta that are fully customized to fit. The rears are Slam 7s. Under the hood's all hardlined and a 4-tank setup with 2 compressors. That was probably the second or third thing I did to the car, is start laying out the air ride. And then got involved with making the car a little wider, making the car a little longer up front, cutting the roof out, adding side scoops. Found a cool carbon fiber wing and molded it to a 1 of 50 deck lid. Built the wheels. The wheels are GM barrels, 8-inch wide, and the front are Mark IV Jetta barrels that are 6 inches wide. But yeah, I found parts from all over the place. Like windows came from Brazil. That crazy shifter came from Brazil, from Fabio Safari. Dashboard came from Arkansas. Like some of the brake components came from Italy. Just getting parts for these things is, you just gotta get a little creative and start thinking outside your country. For the last 2 years, this car's been at Euro Klassik. Once under a different booth, and then once as I was an employee, or I am an employee for him for the week-long adventure that Euro Klassik is for the setup staff and groundsmen. We put this thing out front in the VIP area, and this thing just, it gets people's attention pretty quick, just because it's unlike anything else or any other Beetle out there around. The show itself is absolutely amazing. Like, there's always different things to do and see. There's open track, and then there's drifting, which is probably my favorite. There's drag racing, limbo, teeter-totter, like the whole 9. It's a super fun event. I'm gonna obviously continue to go because I'm super good buddies with Garrett, so that's gonna be a lifelong adventure, I think, for us. I have a shop, and it's called Hangar 6 Customs. I do a lot of automotive fab. Like we do big turbo kits in cars, Coyote motors in cars that don't belong, build drag cars, full roll cages, 25 360 cert, or really whatever you want. You want a show cage or a functioning cage. But we can build cars from scratch or do any customization to them with respects to all fabrications. Motor, and you know, even if something down to seat rails that you want lower seats and you want them to function like real seats, you know what I mean? We pretty much, I don't know, have a lot of fun with cars. And like, that's the main goal, right? Like, don't let them get stressed. You're only here for a short time. You might as well have a ton of fun with vehicles, and that's what they're here for.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Cruise TV Canada. If you'd like to feature your car, event, or automotive business on future episodes, please reach out to us on our Instagram. Until next time, I'm your host, Stephanie Lastoria, and we'll see you cruising on the open roads.